I hope you enjoy this episode of A Hard Road, but to see more stories from our travels in Trump's America, including the 2020 presidential campaign, just click the like and subscribe button. In nearly 40 years working in and observing politics, I have never seen anything quite as remarkable and divisive as the 2016 election of Donald Trump. Immigration, race, trade, China, Mexico, the wall, and of course, Washington, were all wound up in the campaign promise to make America great again. The midterm elections were held in November 2018, the halfway mark in Donald Trump's first term as US President. It provided an ideal opportunity to see what Americans from all walks of life were thinking about the Trump experiment. So, with my son and cameraman Bill Hawker, I travelled to the United States to observe those elections. We were joined there by my friend of 22 years, Andy Brack. Together we conducted and filmed over 130 interviews on a 5,600 kilometre road trip, travelling to places that were the front line in Trump's campaign to transform the United States. We visited a number of battleground states where the big issues from 2016 were still playing out. These included Arizona, South Carolina, Minnesota and Pennsylvania. Our quest was to discover from everyday Americans whether the actions and policies of Donald Trump, grounded in his unique form of populism, appealed to them or had been found wanting. This is what we discovered.
It seems like we're almost on the brink of a social civil war because the parties are getting so extreme now.
I think he'll go down as the best president in history.
And then you get, we want to make America great again. That was meaning that, we're going to go back. We want to go back to the good old days, which means those were the days that, were my most terrible days in my life.
I love Donald Trump. I think we're going in the right direction. I think he's strong enough and tough enough, and he's business savvy.
I'm just not into all the things that he's trying to do in the country, and I really don't think he's trying to make America great again.
He's a go-getter, and he was serious about making America great. But I've always thought it was great anyway.
Our road trip started in Arizona, where Trump's plans to build a wall have put that frontier state at the centre of the national debate over immigration and national identity. We drove from Tucson through the high desert country and the Wild West town of Tombstone, where Wyatt Earp and his brothers had their famous shootout with the Clanton gang at the OK Corral, to the town of Douglas, located right on the Mexican border. This is the wall that everybody talks about, the wall that divides Mexico and the United States. And on the first day of our road trip across the United States, it's important and I think significant that we're here to talk to a very important figure in the local community, Mayor Robert Uribe. So you feel that a lot of the talk about walls and so forth is more symbolic, more political than real, even though this structure is as real as you
get. No, I mean, you can feel it.
Yeah,
it's here, and when you stand at it, when you stand here, you look across. You can tell that there is division between us and them. Yeah. You can tell that you stay there, I stay here.
Yeah.
And it's prevalent.
But 150 yards up the road, there's a gateway that's taking traffic pretty smoothly through the frontiers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the bigger picture.
Yeah.
This is just something that's to create a conversation, to attract us, but the focus is over there.
And you think that so this is about politics much more than about reality.
This is part of something that is not as greater as the trade, as the relationship, and as the economy.
And all of that is not to understate the importance of trying to restrict narcotics and other drug trafficking that does go between the two countries. Your view is that, supported by evidence, is that it's in the main coming through the official port of entry, and that's understaffed.
It is understaffed.
Yeah.
If we walk a couple more steps forward, we'll be where we host the binational concert, which is the only binational concert that ever takes place in Arizona. So in the binational concert, we play music sort of simultaneously.
On either side of the wall.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's a festivity. We have lots of fun, and in that moment, we forget everything, and we embrace the richness of our community and the binational relationship that we've shared for many, many years.
So what would you like to see coming out of all the talk, all the politics, at the end of the day? A freer movement between the two sides of the border, or more understanding of what is driving, I guess, the Trump agenda?
If I could be selfish, I want both. I want Douglas to be recognized, and I want other border communities to be recognized for their role. I want better infrastructure in border communities. I want better schools, better roads. I want better jobs. I want investments in infrastructure such as the port of entry. I want us to strengthen our relationship with Mexico. Those things are manageable.
We then drove an hour west to the town of Hereford to meet local veterinarian Gary Thrasher. He took us to a remote part of the border where very few Arizonans have visited. Gary strongly supports Trump's plans for increased security along the national frontier.
You know, President Trump, his attitude is that he wants to stop it. He wants to stop everything illegal coming across the border. The drugs, the people that are coming illegally, the potential for terrorist acts coming illegally.
However, for Gary, Trump's wall is not the answer to the issues facing border communities.
Here we've got 30 miles of nothing but this. And building a wall isn't, if there's nobody out here, it's still only going to slow them down. It's not going to stop them. If they built the wall, they definitely need somebody here on the other side of the wall. You can take your camera and go look all the way that way, and you won't see a Border Patrol person, I'll bet you, if you stand here for 3 hours. We have got nothing but a stop sign here that everybody's running a stop sign. Is what it amounts to. There's no cops anywhere around to give anybody a ticket.
Gary also spoke of the traumatic impact that nightly border crossings have on ranchers and other members of his community.
More people die out here than should die out here, and that's mostly because of exposure and traffic and wearing themselves out running. And I call it a sick prison movie. You know, when you let somebody out of the prison, you turn the dogs loose, give them 15 minutes, and then chase them to death, which is essentially what the Border Patrol does. This gentleman, a Vietnam veteran, was out checking his livestock and came across a woman a young lady who had stopped there apparently and died. By the time the following morning came around, bears or lions or coyotes or whatever it was got to the body and mutilated it pretty well, took an arm off and some other parts. But the sheriff and Border Patrol finally got out there and got him located. And when they were bagging up the body, they were missing one of her arms, and the sheriff had brought him the arm, said, "Here's the arm, help me put it in the bag." And the guy had to hold on to the arm while he was putting it into the bag, and he said that was the most horrible thing. He says, "It's kept me up nights now. I don't know what it is about that." And I said, "Well, you saw some pretty horrible things overseas in Vietnam." He said, "Yeah, but this young lady had a Mickey Mouse Timex watch on, and it was ticking, and I can't get over that ticking, holding onto an arm that's been chewed off with the clock still ticking." So, that's the kind of thing that affects people. Look at your own yard. If you found a dead person in your yard, it'd probably traumatize you for quite a while. These people are finding it commonly.
Like all political metaphors, the war means different things to different people. Drugs and terrorism are just part of that story. Of equal potency, is the issue of illegal or undocumented immigration into the United States, whether it be economic immigration from Mexico or more recently asylum seekers from Latin American countries like Honduras, Guatemala and El Salvador. We drove to Phoenix to find out more about Trump's stance on illegal immigration. We dropped in at the Barrio Cafe, where we spoke with the chef and owner, Silvana Salcido Esparza.
In Mexican-American relations, I started hearing the word Mexico. Before it was Mexico. Oh, Mexico! Tequila, burritos, comida. And now it's Mexico. Rapists and bad people. So yes, we've gone back instead of going forward. But let's not forget that Mexico is a very populous people. And this has been their land way before the white man got here. So I think that the stronghold of the Mexicano in their land of birth is still there. And you can't take that away. And at the same time, in my opinion, there's still the enslavitude of appropriation of our culture. They take our piñata, they take our music, Disney did. They take our culture, but they don't want the people. And again, I love this part right here where you're being put thoughts into your head from a young age, how to think, how to act. You're not, for us, you're not, oh, in the United States, you're not American, you're Mexican. In Mexico, oh, wait a minute, you're not Mexican, you're American. So it's embracing our culture and taking it back. We're talking about this was right before the Donald Trump election, and here is the resistance for it.
One of the big issues dividing Americans is the legal status of young adults who come to the US as children of undocumented arrivals. These people are called dreamers, a reference to their hope to become full American citizens. President Trump has targeted these people with threats of deportation. A champion of the dreamers is Estela Blanc, a Mexican-American member of the Arizona State Legislature.
I like to say I'm an original dreamer. My parents brought me to the United States when I was 6.5 years of age. My parents left everything behind in Guadalajara, Mexico, because my dad in particular, wanted all his daughters to have access to a decent education. And unfortunately, he knew that would not happen in Mexico for us, especially as women and young girls at that time. And so we came on a visa, and after 6 months, our visa expired and I became undocumented. It was such an honor to be asked by this amazing organization in Arizona called Living United to go to DC and I guess make a statement through an arrest. We blocked, I think it was Pennsylvania Avenue. I think that's the busiest, right in front of Capitol Hill. There was close to, I think, 100 of us arrested. And, you know, oftentimes I've been asked or told, how dare you? You know, you're a public official. And the thing is that the way this country has moved forward on things like civil rights, voting rights, women's rights, is people have stood up and taken chances like civil disobedience. For me to be in DC and to be that reminder of this is what the American dream is and what it can look like, it
was unwelcome.
And it throws people off, especially people who, right, because then I always hear, well, you're different. No, I'm not. I'm just like those dreamers waiting for the opportunity, and I had the opportunity to pursue that American dream.
In the course of any political campaign, unexpected issues arise which can have an impact on the election. As you will see, there were several such instances during the 2018 midterms. The first of these was Trump's nomination of Brett Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court, whose confirmation hearing was held in the week that we arrived in the United States. Kavanaugh, a deeply conservative lawyer with strong views on such issues as abortion, put the role of women in these elections front and centre. His nomination was all the more controversial because of the allegations by Christine Blasey Ford. We asked women and men on the street about these issues and how it was affecting them.
But now I think women are the issue, which I'm very happy to see. that's been happening.
I think he's very disrespectful to women even prior to being elected, there was a lot of things that were exposed about what he was saying he could do to women, and it surprised me. And I think a lot of female voters came out because of that and were going against it, which is what I believe in too.
Well, he's a man, and he hadn't done anything that the rest of us haven't done.
I think that women in general, I think, have a hard time, coming out with things like this because of the fear of happening what just happened. There's been no validity given to any of her claims. I think the FBI investigation, from at least what I've heard and read about, was it wasn't deep enough. They didn't go deep enough and then talk to the right people. There may have been some direction from the Oval Office on that. Who knows exactly what happened? But the whole Kavanaugh thing's a big mess.
I believe Brett Kavanaugh, and I know that's unusual. Do I think something happened to her? Yes, I do. Do I think it happened the way it did? No. And I'm a survivor, so I'm speaking from experience, and I've never, said that out loud before in this type of a forum, but I'm going to tell you right now, something probably happened. But I have a whole lot of questions, and I listened the day that she was testifying, whatever you want to call it, being questioned, and there are a lot of things that didn't match up.
I tried to stay out of that case just because it was such a huge headache. For me, honestly, I'm a feminist, so I want to be for the woman who's saying these things happen to her, but at the same time, I want to make sure she's telling the truth because we don't want false accusations. Whenever you see him, he looks like he didn't do it.
The hearing of Judge Kavanaugh was another thing. I think it was utterly disgraceful the way the Democrats attacked this man. I just think it was terrible. But I love the way Donald Trump stood by Justice Kavanaugh.
It made me very angry. It was very difficult for me to watch Christine Blasey Ford giving her testimony just because, you could see her emotions on her face and what she was going through and how terrified she was. She was treated abominably. It was very angering just to have all of her testimony completely discredited.
And of course, the issue of Roe v. Wade comes back into the picture, I suspect.
Absolutely. That's one of the reasons that they have put him in that place. They want him to protect Trump against any kind of criminal activity, and Newt Gingrich just said that the other day, that, well, we're going to see how this plays out with the taxes, because now Kavanaugh's in there. And I think that, Roe v. Wade is also, potentially on the chopping block. Even if it doesn't go, even if they don't, roll it back, the Republicans have been so good at going from state to state and chipping away at those rights. They have, made it their mission. And so, it's a very, dangerous situation for a lot of people, half the country. I mean, our, privacy rights, our medical rights, our, right to, choose. It's bad.
It's terrifying. Yeah, it is terrifying in some degree, but like I mentioned earlier, reproductive oppression has existed in so many marginalized communities already. Black and poor and brown women have had limited access to reproductive health. There's something to be studied in our history. We've been here before.
I have confidence that is something we're going to want to continue. It's just something that people have forgotten about, that it was a major health issue, that people were getting coat hanger abortions, and women were dying regularly, and young women were disappearing. There's like a lot of issues that people have forgotten about that may have to come back to light, like really ugly history.
I had a really interesting experience when, I think in the past past 6 months, South Carolina made it illegal to have an abortion after 24 weeks, I think.
So.
And, no, maybe it was last year.
Not the personhood, no, not that.
No, it wasn't the personhood bill.
Yeah.
And I was talking to my dad about that. I was like, well, what if I get pregnant and something goes wrong? And he was like, well, just take it to another state. You'll be fine. And I was like, that's great for me. But what about the people that
rely on public transport?
Right, what if they don't have a car?
Or the money, or the time.
I mean, if it was an issue, my parents could fly me to another country if I needed to. Right. But that's not the case for
The majority of people.
Most people in South Carolina. Yeah.
In the next episode, our road trip takes us to South Carolina, where we look at the impact Trump's controversial statements about race are having on the citizens of that former slave state and birthplace of the American Civil War. I hope you enjoyed this episode of A Hard Road. To see more stories from our travels in Trump's America, including the 2020 presidential campaign, just click the like and subscribe button.